Good morning, my friends. Today is Chuf Ches Cheshvan, Koyach B'mar Cheshvan, Wednesday. Parshas told us on Edge. We need a little bit of Koyach in us. My name is Gershy Schwarcz and I'm your host on Edge, and I'm here with a total summary of all the news that happened in the last 24 hours. Let us jump right in, shall we? Now, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time and haven't heard news in the last 3 years, there's been a war going on between Russia and Ukraine. Russia has invaded Ukraine. Well, they're fighting over what? Over territory. Russia wants some territory that Ukraine is controlling right now. Okay, it started back in 2014 with Crimea, and then it was quiet a little bit, and then it started again when Biden became president, and Trump said that if he had been president, it wouldn't have happened, and the whole, there was a whole story. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, Trump has won the presidency, the third election, for the second term. He's the 47th president of the United States of America today, and we'll hear about him soon and why I'm mentioning his name. But Russia has attacked Ternopil in Ukraine last night. At least 25 civilians were killed, and many more were hurt. Rescue teams in Ukraine are still pulling out people from the rubble. Kiev blames Moscow for hitting civilians again. I spoke to a couple of Ukrainian refugees who are here in Chestnut Ridge, not far from me where I live, and they told me that, there's people to blame on both sides. Millions of people have been dying from this war, over 3 years already, and he said that the Ukrainians would come to a shul or to a civilian, populated area or building and say, listen, we need to put our soldiers right here. We need to fight the Russians, so we need to put our soldiers right here. So obviously the Russians are targeting those soldiers. Well, it's almost very similar to what's happening with Hamas. I don't want to compare. I don't want to say that they're the same people, but you know what? The war's been going on for 3 years. Only one person can say, I want to stop this. I'm not going to go into my feelings and my thoughts about it because there's so many different sides to the story, and obviously Russia is the aggressor. We all know that, and Putin, if he ends this stupidity about fighting for territory, then the war would also end. But at the same time, there's, other people on all sides of the aisle that think differently. I didn't come here with my opinions. Let's continue with the story, shall we? Reports say you can give me feedback. If you didn't like it, tell me. If you did like it, tell me. On 845-671-1775. I'd love to hear your feedback. Maybe I should just stick to reporting the news. Reports say that America is drafting a 28-point plan. Looks like it worked for Gaza to end this war. Steve Witkoff is reportedly heading with this plan to Russia with the special envoy from Russia, Kirill Dmitriev. The plan has 4 simple parts. Very simple. A peace deal for Ukraine. B, security guarantees for Ukraine. Zelensky is very happy about that. And 3, a new European security setup. Number 4, how the US, Russia and Ukraine deal with each other in the future. Let's hope this plan works out. Now, I was going to say that On Edge News is powered by Yiddish24. I give this segment in Yiddish every single day, by the way, for those of you who don't know, for the last half a year. And we reach, Baruch Hashem, B'li and Hara, close to 60,000 a day, depending on the day. And just since last week, we started doing this English edition. Now, we bring the same clean, kosher news to even more people. People have thrown away their non-kosher sources, even smartphones. I'm not saying that you have to. I'm not advocating for anything. Like, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. But the point is that people who have been tied to their smartphones or, non-kosher sources to be able to get the news, but they just wanted to hear what's going on in the world. But here we can give these, and people that are not signed up on WhatsApp statuses as well, this is mainly the target audience, kind of. So no junk, no nonsense, no Lashon Haras, just real news you can trust, and with pictures and videos that are clean. Brought to you by The Click. I was able to do this thanks to The Click, thelakewoodluach.com, the heimische info hub for Lakewood area and beyond. Subscribe to their WhatsApp status for minyanim, even in airports. Yes, you're in the airport, you need to know if there's a minyan, call them. On the plane, I'm joking. Eateries and all the other important local updates that you want to know. Clean, filtered, no Lashon Haras from his end as well, no fluff. WhatsApp status. Okay, and groups. Middle East and Israel. Let's go into the news, shall we? On the Egypt-Israel border, civilians from Egypt volunteered in working with the IDF to stop a major smuggling attempt. Now, we all know that there's been hundreds of such type of smuggling attempts with drones and with all kind of different vehicles and ways to smuggle weapons into Israel through Egypt. The Israelis have managed to infiltrate and stop many such smuggling attempts, and today with the civilians, Egyptian civilian volunteers who want to help. So 2 smugglers who crossed into Israel on a new Can-Am off-road vehicle were captured along with 2 newly imported drones. The arrest took place between Netzarim buildings and Be'er Milka. The suspects were handed over to the police, the Israeli police, and both drones and vehicle were confiscated. Let's talk about Machon HaGerulos. Now, sometimes a Yid is stuck on a big decision. a deal, a job, buildings to buy, what to take, what not to take, or which area to go, to travel to this place, that place. You don't know. You need guidance. You need das Torah, right? Even a medical question needs real guidance. Yes, refuah, shadichem. Machon HaGerulas is an automatic system designed and built by the Nadvona Rebbe of Blumenberg. You can find out. You can ask about him. A very special person, backed by major poskim, and backed by major sources in Tanakh, and the Gemara, Chazal, and of course Reb Chaim Vital, and major Sfadische poskim, Ashkenazische poskim. Harav Vosner, the Shevet HaLevi, says that for a Yid to make a goydel is kodesh kudeshim. It isn't a mystical segula. It's real. It's emissary HaKodesh that every Yid has. Intuition, right? But sometimes we're just too stubborn to trust it. So Hashem keeps on sending us messages. We're just too lazy or busy to recognize His voice. Some of us, not all of us. Just need a little bit of chizik, koich, right? Koich b'mar chashon. Sign up today for $101 only a month to be able to do that, to be able to find out what you need to do with a goyrel. Special offer today and tomorrow for those who are listening. You call 845-400-1890. Again, 845-400-8090 and say the code on Edge. You can buy 1 month and get 2 additional months for free. Now the money, it's pure tzedakah. You can use masa money for this because it goes to choshev tzvecken, like building mikvuos, for very important tasks. After the terrorist attack yesterday in Gush Etzion, a brutal terror attack that happened in Gush Etzion Junction yesterday. It's the second such attack that happened. One happened in a grocery as well, for those of you who remember Gush Etzion. Now, yesterday, the attack, one Israeli was killed, Hashem Yinkandome, and 3 others were injured. One is in critical condition still. He needs a refuah shalema. According to the IDF, 3 Palestinian terrorists turned their car into a weapon by slamming into pedestrians. They rammed their car into pedestrians. One terrorist jumped out trying to stab people with a knife. Soldiers right away opened fire immediately and killed all the 3 attackers. Now, the IDF has imposed a curfew on the village of Beit Umar, which is they closed all entrances to that village and have begun arresting dozens of Palestinians. One of the terrorists who carried out the attack was actually a resident of that village. In other news, an airstrike in Lebanon, in Ein al-Heliwa refugee camp in southern Lebanon, killed 13 people, 13 Palestinians, and wounded 4, according to Lebanon's health ministry. Now, this is breaking major headlines today, because obviously Israel according to the news articles, made a mistake according to reports. Israel Defense Forces said it struck a site near Sidon used by Hamas fighters for training in Lebanon. Lebanese officials say that the target was inside the camp. Hamas denies the claim and say civilians were hit. Well, we don't know if it was civilians, or 13 Palestinians, or it was Hamas civilians. The strike hit the occupied Palestinian refugee camp on the outskirts of Sidon. This is one of the deadliest Israeli actions in Lebanon since the ceasefire with Hezbollah at the end of 2024. More airstrikes were reported this morning. The IDF says operations are ongoing and civilians should stay away from Hezbollah and maybe even Hamas areas in Lebanon. Looks like Lebanon's getting hit hard now that Gaza kind of is quiet. For those of you who don't know what it means, Israel is fighting what they call a guerrilla war, because usually when you, like in Russia or Ukraine, what it looks like at least, the soldiers are fighting soldiers, right? Bases are fighting bases. That's how it works. They're attacking bases. Problem is that Hamas doesn't have a base. Hezbollah at least does have bases. Hamas doesn't have a base. They never had a base. Never had a military base. They have bases under hospitals and schools. It's very common, and they also don't wear any uniform. They only wear the uniform that we all see on pictures in front of the camera, obviously, but they don't. The reality on the ground is that they don't. So nobody would know if it's a civilian or a Hamas member. Now Israel has to work really hard on finding out if those are really Hamas terrorists. What they do is what no other country really can do, or possibly is able to even do, is by fighting a guerrilla war. They have to realize, they have to first of all send out leaflets and warnings and call people to evacuate the area before they attack, and possibly by hitting Hamas terrorists. But they are in civilian areas, obviously in populated areas. It's just very hard. It's a very dense area as well. So just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of what goes on there on the battleground. Saudi Crown Prince, as we all know, Mohammed bin Salman, visited Washington yesterday. There's been a big welcome and a military flyover. I don't know if there's been a B-2 bomber, a B-2 aeroplane. There hasn't been, according to reports. It's interesting. Trump, I guess, didn't want to do it for him, but for Putin, he did. I guess he doesn't. There's no only those countries that he kind of wants to threaten them. Yeah. Trump says Saudi Arabia has agreed to invest $600 billion in the United States, and says that this is because MBS, well, Mohammed bin Salman, is such a good friend. He might make at $1 trillion, he says. The Crown Prince Salman said at the White House yesterday, "We want to be a part of the Abraham Accords, but we also need a two-state solution." A reporter asked President Trump, "Are the F-35s you're selling to Saudi Arabia the same ones being used by Israel? And if so, how does that allow for an edge for Israel?" Trump responded, "I think it's going to be pretty similar. Yeah, this is a great ally, and Israel is a great ally." A senior Israeli official said that even if F-35 jets are sold to the Saudis 6 years from now, Israel is still not worried. He says Israel will always maintain qualitative air superiority, and that the United States is committed to preserving that. For those of you who don't know, most bombs and most weapons built in the United States are usually sold to Israel, which later gets transformed or modified by the Israeli intelligence and Israeli companies, Elta or Elbit or, Rafael, all these major companies that we know that are basically based in Israel, and then they sell it back to the United States, and they'll sell their ideas, basically. They always modify these things, and we all know that that's why they said it, because the F-35 jets were obviously modified. The United States, and I heard a report from somebody who works at Lockheed Martin, a big company, who actually is aware, he was heading one of these F-35 modification projects in Israel. The United States just approved a major weapons sale to Taiwan as well, almost $700 million of weapons to Taiwan. Well, we all know Taiwan is also on the brink of a war with China. Well, the Chinese are preparing for it. Obviously, Xi Jinping hasn't been shy of showing that. The system is the same advanced missile tech that has been used and tested in Ukraine. Now, it's the second sale this week, bringing the total to $1 billion of arms deals. It's good for us, more money into America. Well, for us, I mean Americans. For those who are listening in other places in the world, it's good for you too. Economy, good economy in different countries, especially in America, is good for everyone, at least, because America is the dominant power in the world today. And the message from Washington is clear. We are supporting Taiwan, obviously, right? Let's see how China responds. They also made a deal recently. Let's talk about your budget, shall we? BudgetYid.com. For those of you who haven't tried it yet, try it. It's worth it. It's free. Why not? Just go on to BudgetYid.com, and you'll see that you can actually set up a clear budget for your life, personal, family, simchas. If you're making a wedding now and you want to know what your part is, what your mechittan's part is, you can both share. And also, it's connected to your bank, your credit cards. You can just, it's very secure. They work with major platforms like, I don't know, to connect your bank. I don't remember exactly the name. I haven't got it in front of me. But the point is, very trusted, very reliable. BudgetYid.com. Stress-free. They have smart checklists, charts to track your spending, from groceries to simchas, like I just said. It's all there. And if you've got something to sell, there's another major deal that they have. It's a site where there's no fluff, there's no side things, there's no all these things that just distract the customer. You know a product you want to buy, or you know a product you want to sell. If you're a seller, you can sign up to sell your items through BudgetYid.com. Now, it's not necessarily like an affiliate system where it's linked to an Amazon account or something. It's private sellers like sourdough bread, right? Or you're making your own little electronic gartlach that vibrate to remind you when mincha is. I'm just saying, if you have something to sell, you can always go onto BudgetYid.com and sign up to become a seller for just $30 a month. And it's 3 products for $30 a month. I mean, they have better deals. If you mention On Edge use code On Edge, you'll get a good discount. And if it doesn't work, call me. Okay, you can add pictures, your logo, your story, your video, whatever you want to add, you can add onto that. People can see it, and it's kosher, clean, and it's the best thing. You're live. So you don't need a website. You don't need anything. Just no tech skills. Just click BudgetYid.com, and your world, your life will change. It's a chiddush nifla. We'll dive in deeply to it with the owner of BudgetYid.com, Be'ezras Hashem, one of those days, and we'll a different separate segment to give you more about it. Anyway, let's continue. The U.S. Senate agreed to pass the bill to force the release of the Epstein files, and it was voted basically a unanimous vote of 427 to 1. Who was that one, by the way? Sending it to American President Donald J. Trump's desk. Texas just lost No, when you vote, when everyone votes and one person votes no, that person must be. Anyway, I'll send him some flowers today, maybe, to make him feel better, because he probably feels like left out. I'm joking. Texas just lost its attempt to redraw its U.S. House map. A federal panel of 3 judges ruled Tuesday that the new map drawn by Republicans cannot be used for the 2026 elections. I wonder, is that only for the Republicans? Well, they said that the map appears to have been drawn with radical bias, not simply for partisan advantage. The map was intended to flip up to 5 additional congressional seats in the favor of Republicans. The court has decided the state must instead use the district lines approved in 2021. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton said that the state will appeal the ruling to the Supreme Court of the United States of America. So let's see what unfolds, what happens. I didn't get yet a clear report if the Democratic, in California, in other places that have tried to redraw the map, if that passed. I don't know. Okay, the Treasury, I'll find out and I'll let you know tomorrow. The Treasury is launching investment savings accounts for children born in the coming years of America. And people are wondering if this will be replacing Social Security in years to come. It's called, well, according to many conservatives, Social Security has been failing in terms of that. So it's been crashing anyway, so I guess maybe this is a new system. It's called the Trump accounts. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Trump has a Trump Mobile. You can sign up, like US Mobile, AT&T. Trump also has his own kind of system, I guess. A phone as well. You can buy a Trump phone. Under the new law, children, where does it come in? I don't know, just remind myself, because he's opening up different type of things. I don't know what that is, but the point is, it's called the Trump account. Under the new law, children born between January 1, 2025 and December 31, 2028 will receive a one-time $1,000 government deposit into an account, a savings account. Families will be allowed to contribute to up to $5,000 each year into these accounts, which are invested in mutual funds, bonds, and exchange-traded funds tied to a U.S. stock index. The funds are tax-deferred and can be accessed after the child becomes an adult. The goal, stated by the Treasury, is to help children learn how to invest and grow their money. It's an amazing move, by the way, in my opinion. But who am I to give my opinions? Like I said, if you don't like to hear my opinions, just the reports, let me know. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent called these Trump accounts and described them at one point as a backdoor for privatizing Social Security, which raised immediate objections, obviously. The White House clarified the accounts are not intended to replace Social Security, but to supplement it. I guess we will see. Let's talk about other type of investments that you might benefit from, like, buying a building. Yes? So how do you buy a building? You borrow money if you don't have $1 million just sitting right there, Now, don't call me for $1 million. Call YS Capital Group, 718-831-2168. The answer is always yes, a no closing costs loan, no closing costs, no doc loan, and when they say no closing costs, it's actually that, so don't take my word for it. Just call them and mention on Edge for even better deal on the rates. Commuters had to run for safety in England yesterday after a man armed with a machete chased people at London's Belham tube station, underground station, the tube station. My brother told me that he was just there, like it was, people commute through the underground all the time. A man with a large knife-like weapon was seen on the platform in Belham station on the Northern Line. Passengers rushed onto the train to escape, mind the gap between the train. Remember, no one was hurt. The attacker jumped over ticket barriers and fled the scene. I don't yet know any updates. As usual, per English police, they always keep things, under yellow tape. While all this was happening, some major community leaders took part in an event organized by the Independent School Council in the Parliament building, where they met with, the Parliament buildings where Big Ben is, where they met with members of Parliament and lords who support Jewish education. Chassidische Yidden arrived there, smiled with Muslims wearing, Shmoyim Begudim. Now let's talk about America, let's talk about Muslims. In Dearborn, a group called Americans Against Islamization marched in the city in Dearborn, Michigan. Dearborn, Michigan is a very highly dense populated area with lots of Muslim communities, Muslim residents live there. Now, during the protest, one man hit a Koran with a piece of bacon, chazafleisch. Later, he tried to set fire to another Koran. Things are getting messy in Dearborn, Michigan. Now, let's end with this. before we end with one small thing about today. Sponsors. Arrive Express, 845-622-1111. Or Protobite. 347-354-1237. We said Arrive Express as well. So thank you to for those of you who don't know what Protobite is, we'll tell you another time. Arrive Express. Well, you know already. I've said it many times. Protobite 347-354-1237. Arrive Express 845-622-1111. 845-254-1111 from Monroe, the taxi of the upstate region, and Shawarma Delight for those of you who want to have delicious Mediterranean shawarma. 26 Spring Valley Marketplace next to Bingo. 845-272-0011. SDNY.store. And that's Shawarma Delight for you. Now, historic facts of the day provided you by The Click. I don't want to mention it because it's lots of bad things happened today in England. King Edward supposedly did something good for the Jews, but then later on, a few years later, Jews were burnt, and and in Italy, 10 out of 30 Jews were also. Why am I saying it? It's sad news, sad things that happened this day on Chov Ches Cheshvan, but at the same time we have to remember that Hashem has us and gives us koyach to go through all these times, And good things also happen today. Keep on happening today. My grandfather happens to be his Yotzaitis today, and yesterday I forgot to mention it with the Peshvoska, the Bianca's Yotzait as well. Chov Zayin Cheshvan. Today is Chov Ches Cheshvan, and it's almost Erev Rosh Chodesh. Tomorrow's Erev Rosh Chodesh. It's a good day. My Zayder Paltil ben Shloime Hakoin Rot. He was a great the Zayder of my brother Paltil Schwartz is from the Click, is named after him. He was a great person, a great Yid. And with that, my friend, may his neshama have an aliyah, and be a meitzir for all of us here, and all the other great rabbonim that the Yotzat today that I didn't mention, but I don't have all the names in front of me. But we should all do a kind thing for one another and stay informed, stay on edge, and we'll see you tomorrow. On edge.